Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Welcome to Talking Politics. My name is Robert Press. I am a reporter, as you can see by my official New York City press card. I write for both the Bronx Post and Parkchester Times, which are both, like this show, are part of Muslim Media Corporation. I also contribute to the Co-op City News and have a blog at www.100%.blogspot.com, along with Facebook pages 100% and What is Going On in Your Community Board. The views expressed on this show are that of the host, any guest, or anyone who is commenting at the bottom of the screen, and not necessarily those of Muslim Media Corporation. Let's go to the weather as the cold weather is setting in. It has come in with our Thanksgiving Day parade yesterday. The rain has stopped, but today, Friday, 45 will get to be the high. Tomorrow is Saturday, a high of 41. Sunday, it goes below 40 with a high of 39 and 41 on Monday. At night, though, however, the lows could go into the high 20s. So be careful and have your heat on at night. Yeah, I wish I had my heat on. Okay, that's another story. The United States has brokered the release of 3 Americans in a deal with China that includes the exchange of unidentified Chinese citizens held in the U.S. Political, which cited sensitive diplomatic negotiations that have not yet been announced, said the United States have been trying for years to secure the release of the 3, David Sweden, Ken Lee, and John Lung. A ceasefire went into effect at 4 a.m. local time Wednesday morning after Israel's cabinet approved the U.S.-backed proposal to end the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah after prolonged negotiations. However, the Israeli Defense Forces continued an intensive airstrike and ground campaign in Gaza, particularly in the north and of the devastated Palestine territory. Russia has captured a British national fighting with the Ukraine troops who have occupied part of Russia's Kursk region, according to reports Monday, as Moscow began daylight drones on civilian areas of Ukraine and its ground forces accelerated along parts of the front line. The Briton was identified by state news agency TASS and other media as James Scott Rice Anderson. TASS quoted him as saying that he has served as a signalman in the British Army for years, and then joined the International League of Ukraine, formed early on Russia's nearly 3-year-old war against its neighbor. And all regions of Ukraine were under air alert early Thursday amid Russia's latest long-range drone and missile barrage against the country's energy grid, with almost 1 million people reportedly without power. President Vladimir Zelensky said that Russia has launched around 100 drones and more than 90 missiles into Ukraine, including projectiles carrying cluster munitions. Each such attack proves that an air defense system is needed, and now in the Ukraine, where they save lives and not in storage bases, he added. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia launched 91 missiles, 79 of which were shot down. Russia also launched 97 drones, the Air Force said, of which 35 were downed and 62 neutralized by jamming. 3 guided missiles and 35 enemy UAVs were shot down. More than 60 were lost in location, the Air Force said in a statement. In total, though, 12 strikes were recorded, mainly at fuel and energy sector facilities. The Air Force also said Russia is changing its weapons and tactics, making it harder to intercept the projectiles, for example, by shooting thermal and radar traps, and also using electronic warfare protection means installed directly on their missiles. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel and his former defense minister, Yoav Gallant, accusing them of war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Gaza Strip, and dealing an extraordinary blow to Israel's global standing as its presence with the wars on multiple fronts. The court also issued a warrant for Hamas military chief Mohammed Deif, accusing him too of crimes against humanity, including murder, hostage-taking, sexual violence, Israel has said it killed Mr. Deif in an airstrike, but the court says it could not determine whether he was dead. Now, on to President-elect Donald Trump, who said he will issue an executive order imposing new tariffs on imported goods from China, Mexico, and Canada, the nation's three largest trading partners, as one of his first acts on Inauguration Day. Two of the three have returned and said that they will issue tariffs on American goods. Special counsel Jack Smith moved to abandon two criminal cases against Trump, acknowledging that Trump's return to the White House will preclude attempts to federally prosecute him. Lawyers for President-elect Donald Trump are demanding that New York Attorney General Letitia James drop her fraud case against him, his family, and businesses for the greater good of the country. Now, Mayor Adams said he is ready to sit down with Donald Trump and his rapidly developing cabinet, while reiterating that he wants to work rather than war with the incoming administration. Meanwhile, federal investigators raided the Queens home of Al Cockfield, an Adams ally who runs a PAC the mayor fundraised for. And federal investigators in Manhattan are seeking records from Invol Technologies, the controversial manufacturers of weapons detectors used by New York City Mayor Eric Adams' administration as part of several pilot projects, the Daily News reports. Now, what is Kamala Harris going to do? Questions are swirling around over Vice President Harris's next move as she ready to exit the White House in the wake of her loss to President-elect Donald Trump. Early polling suggests Democrats want to see Harris back in the running for the Oval Office in 2028, despite her defeat this cycle. But some in the party speculate the vice president could seek another office, for starters, the governor's mansion in California, or pursue avenues outside of the electoral process to help bolster the resistance against a second Trump term. Election day was a bruising night for Democrats. Trump swept all of the swing states and made inroads in blue strongholds as most of the country shifted rightward, and Trump secured both chambers of Congress to pave way for a trifecta of power in Washington next year. Harris is among a small handful of vice presidents in recent history who tried for the presidency and lost. Each took a different path in the aftermath. Richard Nixon mounted an unsuccessful bid for California governor before his comeback White House win in 1968. Herbert Humphrey returned to the Senate, and Al Gore never ran for political office again, focusing on environmental activism and earning the Nobel Peace Prize. If she decided she wanted to run for president in 2028, she would start out as a favorite, said Jim Kessler, co-founder of the left-center think tank, The Third Way. But early list of possible 2028 contenders are already crowded with Democrat rising stars, including term-limited California Governor Gavin Newsom, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. A stacked field might make it difficult for Harris to resize the momentum she had this year. Instead, there might be another opportunity opening for Harris in the home state of California, which is already a bastion of blue state resistance in the incoming Trump terms. Due to term limitations, the governor's mansion will be up for grabs in 2026. A poll from the UC Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies and the Los Angeles Times this month found nearly half of California voters be likely to support her if she was to enter the 2026 gubernatorial race. Now, somebody else who will be leaving office is Damian Williams, the United States Attorney for Southern District of New York, who served as the chief federal enforcement officer in the district, announced today that he intends to resign his position as U.S. Attorney effective 11:59 p.m. on December 13th, 2024. Edward Y. Kim, who currently serves as Deputy United States Attorney, will become the acting U.S. Attorney upon his departure. Williams said, "I thank President Biden for nominating me as U.S. Attorney and Attorney General Garland for leading the department and supporting the Southern District of New York during my tenure. It has been an honor to serve the American people." Now, what are New York State legislators doing to stop Trump? Advocates for immigrants have started to press top lawmakers for more help to counter the incoming Trump's administration deportation plan. The push could lead to a doubling down on sanctuary policies meant to protect undocumented immigrants, which have come under fire from Republicans. The New York Immigration Coalition has been urging lawmakers to take up the New York for All proposal, which would bar all local, state, and local entities from working with federal immigration enforcement agencies like Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Patrol. At the end of the day, it's really a public safety issue, said Murad Awada, I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, the executive director of the Immigration Coalition. A Cuomo-approved executive office order in 2017 placed limits on local enforcement's work with agencies like ICE and CBP. Some Democratic state lawmakers, meanwhile, want to bolster that defense for immigrants facing deportation proceedings by creating a universal right to counsel. The proposal is expected to be an expensive one, though the lawmakers have yet to come up with an estimate of an exact cost. It's not cheap, but I think it's the right thing to do and all points in the right direction, said Manhattan State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel. At the very least, we need to increase funding for indigent legal services, including counsel and immigrant procedures. Albany Democrats have been pondering ways to counter the president-elect, and ideas like joining Canada are really rather unrealistic. But with immigration, a charged political issue, funding the undocumented immigrants could be a tricky proposal for the legislature, even in a Democratic-dominated capital. As far as President-elect Donald Trump's promise to mass deport millions of immigrants across the country, Governor Kathy Hochul indicated on Tuesday New York State will cooperate to at least some extent with federal immigration authorities. Hochul said that while she supports legal immigrants, including asylum seekers, she would be the first one to call Immigration and Customs Enforcement to deport undocumented immigrants who are accused of crimes. Someone breaks the law, I'll be the first to call ICE and say, get them out of here, Hochul said when asked how she would respond to Trump's plans for mass deportations and whether New York would be a sanctuary state under the leadership those who are identified, I'll be the first one to help get rid of them, she added. I don't want them here. I don't want anybody terrorizing my citizens. The governor said she would allow the asylum process to play out for eligible, law-abiding recent arrivals. Those who come here legally, we want them to get jobs, Hochul said. This isn't the first time Hochul expressed a willingness to deport immigrants accused of crimes. She said in February, a number of migrants who were accused of assaulting police officers in Times Square should be deported even before their cases went to trial. At least one of the migrants who was initially arrested in connection with the assault was ultimately found to have nothing to do with the incident. More than 200,000 migrants have come to New York over the past several years after entering the United States seeking asylum. Concern over how to best handle the influx of new people entering the city has driven much of the recent discussion around immigration in New York and around the country. Under an executive order signed by Governor Andrew Cuomo in 2017, as I said, state agencies are prohibited from cooperating with federal immigration authorities or asking about immigration status in most cases. A 2020 law prevents federal immigration authorities from making arrests and in state and local courthouses. Hochul's comments come as she faces criticism from both Republicans and members of her own party over her governance, which has stirred speculations about election challenges in 2026. If Governor Hochul actually meant what she said, Laken Riley would still be alive. Republican Representative Mike Lawler, a Republican weighing a run for governor, said on X. He referenced the murder of a nursing student by an undocumented immigrant which has become highly politicized by the right. The truth is she doesn't, and she even helped usher in New York sanctuary state law. Now, I will conclude with, before I go to my break, that Bronx Congressman Richie Torres confirmed he's considering a run for New York State governor while continuing an onslaught of attacks against fellow Democrat Kathy Hochul. Torres said in a spat of appearances he's launching a listening tour across the Empire State ahead of deciding a mid-2025 on a potential gubernatorial run and Democratic primary against Hochul. But the Bronx congressman who has blasted Eric Adams as complicit in the murders of 3 innocent people by an alleged serial stabber, Raymond Rivera, last week, told the New York Post that he's not ruling out a run for New York City mayor. I thought I would run for governor, not mayor, but nothing is off the table, he said at a rally opposing Hochul's planned expansion across Bronx Expressway. We have a leadership crisis in America, and nowhere is the leadership crisis more profound than in New York City and New York State under failed governance of Kathy Hochul, he told New York One. He repeatedly called her the new Joe Biden, an unpopular leader, leading New Yorkers and Democrats into ruin. She's well-intentioned but ineffective. She's been ineffective in her handling of congestion pricing, managing to outrage both supporters of opponents of congestion price and supporters of congestion pricing. I have lost confidence, and I blame the failed governance of New York State and New York City for Donald Trump's progress in New York. And let me stop here and go to a break right now. I'll come back with some more interesting items like Governor Hochul signing a bill to legalize adultery. So let me go to a break right now, and I'll be back very soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the official launch of the Bronx Post, your premier source for news and information in the Bronx. As the CEO of Muslim Media Corporation, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the Bronx Post, our latest endeavor dedicated to serving the vibrant and diverse community of the Bronx.
Oftentimes, mainstream media portray this county in the most negative way possible, all because Bronx continued to be judged in the 70s and 80s when Bronx was burning. Today, as we enter the small business month of 2024, Muslim Media Corporation is proud to announce the formation and the creation and establishment of a new newspaper that will cover the entire Bronx, continue to highlight the new Bronx, the new realities and the new developments and the new attributes of the Bronx. Some things that are not being covered by, again, our mainstream media. Bronx Post, the first county-wide newspaper to be published by Muslim Media Corporation that has already been publishing Parchester Times.
We aim to be your trusted source for information. We believe in the power of journalism to inform, inspire, and unite communities. With the Bronx Post.
Welcome back. And as I said, Governor Kathy Hochul signed a bill to legalize adultery in New York. The 117-year-old prohibition originated from an attempt to crack down on divorces. Back then, adultery was the only path to obtaining one. And the thinking was there would be fewer people frivolously claiming or seeking affairs to get out of their marital vows. But enforcement had been very selective. Only about a dozen people had been charged with adultery over the past half century, fewer than the number of lawmakers who have committed the crime. And the arrest usually had the individuals already down on their luck, becoming international punchlines. Proposals to repeal the law have been around since 1964, but never acted on. Hochul said, while I'm fortunate to share a loving married life with my husband for 40 years, making it somewhat ironic for me to sign a bill decriminalizing adultery. I know people have complex relationship. These matters should be clearly handled by those individuals and not criminal justice system. So she signed the bill to legalize adultery. So, the ability of New York energy grid to adequately handle future electricity needs is narrowing as power plants are aging. Demand is expected to increase, and zero emission mandates in the State Climate Act are looming. However, a real estate executive and generous donor to Kathy Hochul lobbied her administration on the future of a financially challenged transmission line. Jeff Blau, the CEO of New York City real estate firm Related Companies, participated in virtual meetings last year about the Clean Path transmission line with top Hochul officials, according to records obtained by Politico. The head of NYSERDA, the state's Clean Energy Agency and Public Service Commission chair, were both on the call. Blau's firm has invested in the transmission line, which holds a NYSERDA contract, but currently has no clear financial path as costs have skyrocketed. He's donated more than $87,000 to Hochul's campaign coffers since 2021. The virtual meeting in December 2023 came after the Public Service Commission rejected requests from renewable developers to rewrite competitively awarded contracts, a request Queen Path initially sought to piggyback on. Blau's participation in the call had not been previously reported. Now, as far as the high-stakes gaming commission, to win a lucrative contract downstate casino license continues to be beset by delays, as one of the 4 members of the board entrusted with awarding licenses has stepped down. Political playbook has learned. Quina Abreu, CEO of the New York Women's Chamber of Commerce, had left a prestigious volunteer role on the Gaming Commission downstate citing board. Playbook obtained her November 4th letter of resignation, which made no mention of the reason for her resignation. While casino licenses can still be awarded with 3 board spots filled, Abreu's departure marks the latest example of how a process intended to be smooth and swift has been anything but. In 2022, the state legislature approved 3 casino licenses for the metro New York area, setting off a bidding war for a metaphorical money printing license from the state. The 3 New York casinos are bound to be some of the most lucrative in the works. The board members must reside in New York, however, and cannot have any financial interest in gaming activities. The 3 remaining members include a former university president, a banking CEO, and a real estate law expert. They will score the applications along a highly detailed rubric, with the Gaming Commission weighing in on their decision. If the board loses 1 more member, the state dictates it would be too small to award a license. Now, Governor Kathy Hochul vetoed a bill that would have pushed up a deadline for bids to open up a casino in or around New York City. Changing the timeline would likely have the impact of helping certain bidders and hurting others, Hochul said in her veto message. The casino selection process was agreed to with lawmakers as part of her 2022 state budget. I cannot support a bill that aims to change the rules in the middle of the process. The measure passed by lawmakers in June would have required bidders to submit their proposals for review in August of this year, even though it hasn't yet obtained the necessary local zoning or other approvals. The State Gaming Commission is expected to approve up to 3 downstate licenses by the end of 2025. Some industry sources say the more drawn out timetable benefits bidders facing political resistance, zoning, or land use issues. At the same time, sources said the earlier timeline would potentially hurt Mets owner Steve Cohen's plan to build an $8 billion casino entertainment complex next to Citi Field in Queens, or the Wynn-related company's proposal to build a $12 billion gaming complex in Hudson Yards, among others. The governor changing congestion pricing in the middle of the process, said Adabo, the chairman of the state committee on racing and gambling and wagering. I was trying to improve the process. He said potential bidders with serious legal or land use issues should be weeded out sooner than later to drag out the process. The state will get a minimum of $500 million from each bidder awarded a casino license, with proceeds going to the MTA. But the senator estimated it could be $750 million per license, or $2.25 billion. He noted that after licenses are awarded, it could take up to 3 years to build new casinos. Resorts World at Aqueduct and MGM Empire City at Yonkers Raceway could expand to offer table games within a few months if awarded full casino licenses. Under the state's Gaming Facilities Location Board timeline, applications for casino bids are due June 27, 2025. Community advisory committees consisted of elected officials from the elected areas would then review the bid or bids and vote on whether to approve or reject them. The board would then vote on casino projects and to recommend to the State Gaming Commission, which must then give its final approval by year's end. Now, in case you haven't heard, Former Bronx Assemblyman Michael Blake, who is a veteran of the Obama administration, is entering the crowded field to unseat Mayor Eric Adams. He is the seventh prominent candidate to challenge Mr. Adams, a Democrat who was indicted in September on federal corruption charges. Blake created an exploratory committee on Friday and put up a campaign website on Sunday. In his first interview as a mayoral candidate, Blake said that his campaign would focus on addressing the high cost of living and quality of life in New York City. New Yorkers clearly do not feel their lives are getting better under his administration, he said. Blake said under the Adams administration, whether it be a loss of funds in the pocket or a loss of hope and trust, it is hard to see how the city moves forward with the current mayor. Blake, 41, a former vice president of DNC, served in the state assembly for 6 years and the Obama White House for 2 years and ran unsuccessfully for Congress in 2020, losing to Representative Richie Torres in the Democratic primary. Blake highlights his working class biography and his roots in the Bronx. He said his father is a maintenance worker at a hospital. His mother worked in a manufacturing plant. On to other issues that are coming up. Licensed pet dealers with retail stores that selling dogs, cats, and rabbits will be illegal in New York starting on December 15th, 2024. The pet sale ban is intended to stop dangerous, large-scale breeding operations known as puppy mills, where animals are often mistreated and suffer from serious health issues. Retail pet stores that continue to sell pets such as dogs, cats, and rabbits after December 15, 2024 can face penalties of up to $1,000 per violation. Now, you can still adopt pets from duly incorporated humane societies like animal rescuers or licensed breeders. The MTA is looking potentially to deploy drones as eyes in the sky that would provide additional insights on its fleet of close to 6,000 buses, but union officials are already balking on replacing humans on the ground with the drones. A specialized police unit focusing on quality of life issues formed under New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been operated for over 2 years without any oversight, policies, procedures, and operational guidelines. And for the first time in the NYPD's history, there are more Hispanics in the ranks of police officers than any other demographic group, according to the Daily News. Marion Maron, a former legal aid society legal aid attorney who was temporarily removed earlier this year from the Manhattan Community Education Council for allegedly violating city regulations governing the conduct of parent leaders, is seeking the Republican Party nod to challenge Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg next year. Also, Michael Jennings, a Wall Street mogul with unclear motives, is gearing up to spend nearly $1 million boosting candidates for Bronx, New York City Council seats next year, according to New York Focus. And at its gathering a few days ago, the Bronx Conservative Party Vice Chair Gonzalo Duran, coming off a loss to Congressman Richie Torres, announced his intention to run for mayor of New York City. Yeah, good. Good luck, Gonzo. Wednesday, Judge Laura Taylor Swan, overseeing New York City's Rikers Island jail complex, said in a 65-page report that the city and its Department of Correction had violated constitutional rights of prisoners and staff members alike by exposing them to danger and intentionally ignored her orders. She ordered the city and lawyers representing prisoners to devise a plan for receivership by January 14th, as she was leaning towards taking control of the city's jails. This is a historic decision, said the Legal Aid Society and one of the private firms that filed the class action lawsuit. The situation has continued no matter who is mayor or corrections department commissioner. Judge Swan's ruling came nearly a decade after the city's jails, which include Rikers Island Complex, fell under federal oversight in the settlement of a class action lawsuit. Since then, a court-appointed monitor has issued regular reports on the violence that has continued to plague the facility in the past 2 years. At least 33 people have died in the jails or shortly after being released. A spokesman for Mayor Adams said that the Correction Department had made significant progress towards addressing the decades-long neglect and issues on Rikers Island under the helm of Linnell Manually Liddell, who was appointed commissioner of the agency last year, and we are proud of our work, but recognize there is more that has to be done. The City Council voted to close Rikers Island by August 2027 and replace it with 4 smaller borough jails that are meant to be more humane and more accessible to detainees' families and lawyers. But Rikers is unlikely to be closed by the deadlines, and conditions have continued to deteriorate. Last year, the Federal Monitor, Stephen Martin, filed a report saying that violence was unabated and that officials were hiding information about it. Mr. Martin's team recommended the judge consider holding the Correction Department in contempt of court. Judge Swan found that the city is in contempt of 18 provisions of the settlement. The current management structure and staffing are insufficient to turn the tide within a reasonable period. She wrote that enormous resources are not being deployed effectively. In her opinion, Judge Swan said the Federal Monitor had filed more than 50 reports since being appointed nearly a decade ago, and that not only had little improved, but conditions have actually worsened. Since a consent decree was reached in 2015 under Mayor Bill de Blasio, the city has nearly lost control of its jails several times. In 2022, Judge Swan gave the city more time to fix the rampant violence at the facilities, but it looks like that the time may have run out. New York City Public Advocate, and this will be my final item. New York City Public Advocate has issued a statement on the possible federal receivership of the city jails. He has said, Public Advocate Williams has said, the court has given the city and the administration numerous opportunities to follow recommendations of the Monitor, yet the city has shown again and again that it is unwilling or unable to make meaningful changes on Rikers Island. This administration has insisted that it can do with bluster and arrogance, yet has never earned the confidence of the New Yorkers. The administration has refused to implement measures earnestly or put forth a plan that would mitigate the crisis. With federal receivership now likely, I am cautiously hopeful that a new approach can bring real reforms to help protect people on both sides of the boards, Public Advocate Williams said. And I will close with that and say thank you for watching Talking Politics, and hope to see you next week, and say I hope that everybody had a happy Thanksgiving, and that you are not full of turkey, and or you are full of turkey, I should say, and that I want to thank you for watching again, and I will see you next week on Talking Politics.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted, and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your products and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the websites they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our news site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep.